You know, and I challenged you yesterday to reach out, meet somebody new, network, right? So I'm going to elevate that challenge just a little bit. And I figured what I'd do to show how serious I am is I'm going to give you a phone number that you can call anytime, day or night, that you need some help with something. Okay, so write this phone number down. 406, and I'm going to reiterate, day or night, preferably later at night, 945-1352. And Craig Hansen will be happy to answer that phone at any point in time to help you network. Now, in all seriousness, 406-321-1180, that's mine. And I know a lot of folks in the room probably already have it, but I'm totally serious about when it comes to that networking side of things and needing help. You know, I can guarantee you I do not know all the answers. I will make stuff up, guaranteed, or I will definitely put you in the right direction of somebody that might have an answer to that. So again, 406-321-1180 is my cell phone. And Craig's happy to help too. Yeah. With that said, we'll start off the day. And I would like to invite Crosby Grindell up, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about Sourcewell. And Sourcewell is a group purchasing program and he can explain it, but that really can help. That could really help our organization save money when we're in the right positions to be able to do that. And I've known Crosby for many, many years. He's a good man. Trust what he says, and he'll steer you in the right direction. Crosby?
Thank you, Rich. That was a nice introduction. All right, got your star of approval. Good morning, everybody. I'll just take a couple minutes just to update you on the Fire Rescue GPO program. I've had the privilege of working with many of you for over the years, but I see a lot of new faces here. I'll be doing a session today at 4 o'clock talking about cooperative purchasing and how it can help your department save time and money in your procurement process. I've never met any fire chief or fire service leader who said, I got into the fire service because I love the government procurement process. Please sign me up for more of that. So that's what this is about. This is about making that process easier. Fire Rescue GPO is a group purchasing program that was started by the Western Fire Chiefs and became a national program about 20 years ago. It's now part of Sourcewell. And Sourcewell is a government agency in Minnesota that serves their 5-county region, but they also do cooperative purchasing programs across the country now and into Canada. And so that's where Fire Rescue GPO resides. That's kind of the primary announcement this morning, is that partnership and relationship went from Western Fire Chiefs over to Sourcewell, and now that is where that government procurement program exists for you. The good news is Sourcewell is way bigger than we ever were with just Fire Rescue GPO, so we now have access and a lot of more horsepower to a much bigger cooperative procurement program that does $5 billion in sales annually through their program. There's about 50,000 government agencies involved in using Sourcewell contracts. And we now have a lot of new public safety contracts, public safety oriented contracts, everything from fire apparatus to turnout gear to fire station construction. I mean, all kinds of things that you buy regularly on contract, which allows you to complete that procurement process and meet your solicitation requirements much more easily. And that works whether you're a volunteer department or a combination or a career department. So Sourcewell, all the information can be found on their website. It's sourcewell-mn for Minnesota.gov. And from there you can find co-op contract information, or you can come find me. I do have a table out here. I appreciate that in the vendor area. And again, I'll be speaking in Salon G at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to try to keep it brief so you stay on schedule. But thanks for a couple minutes this morning, Chief Calgary. You didn't know I was going to be so quick. You went back and sat down. Get back up here. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Crosby. So as many of you know, and just to give you a little background, of course, Montana State Fire Chiefs, through our association with the International Association of Fire Chiefs, is part of the Western Fire Chiefs Division. So on the board, we have a member that represents us at all of those Western Fire Chiefs meetings and business. Used to be Chief Christofferson for many years, held that position, and since he's retiring out, Chief Waldo now sits in that position. So we'll call on Chief Waldo to give us a Western Fire Chiefs Association Board update.
Thanks, Rich. Good morning. On behalf of Chief Scott Miller, who could not be with us this morning, I'm here to give you kind of the overview of what the Western is and what it provides. Leadership representation on IFC boards and committees. So a lot of stuff gets done at the national level by the IFC. Well, the Western's how we get our seat at the table there. Participation in Congressional Fire Service Institute. Again, it's an opportunity for the fire service to engage with national leaders. The Western is how we get our foot in the door there. They help us support and pass legislation. They represent our state association at the Western and at the international level. They do have an annual President's Forum that's actually in a couple of weeks. I know Chief Calgar, myself, and Chief Hopple from Billings will be going down to represent the state. They have some services that they provide. You just heard about the GPO that's out there, the Daily Dispatch. If you're not signed up for the Daily Dispatch, it's a quick sign up. You get a pretty good rundown of what's going on, not just in our state, but in the western side of the country. They can help with executive recruitment. So if you've got an organization that may be looking for a new chief officer at some point and you need some help doing that, the Western can provide that. They also have an interim fire chief program. So if your organization has a gap that you just need filled for an interim until you can get some more solid plans in place, the Western can help you with that. They have subject matter experts and consultants, particularly when it comes to wildland. They have some of the best in the country that can help you with any of your wildland programs that you're working on. They actually have a wildland fire policy committee. The committee is made up of representatives from 10 states. For Montana, your representative is Mike Maltaverne. He's right over here. Raise your hand, Mike. I'm going to put you on the spot. There he is. So if you've got questions about wildland and the policy and what's going on at the Western and even the international level, Mike's a great resource for that. They do a lot of work in technology. The Western has got a number of different tech projects in the queue right now that really revolve around the wildland front. That'll hopefully be out sooner than later. And then a lot of conferences come from the Western. There is the Force Conference, there's the Fire Data Labs. They do a lot of research partnerships with grant-funded projects. So if you're not engaged in the Western, want to learn more, just ask me. I'll help you get hooked up. Certainly get on the Daily Dispatch. That is a great tool to kind of keep up with what's going on in the state and like I said, the western part of the country. So with that, I will transition into introducing our next speaker. It's Chief John Butler. John is the fire chief out of Fairfax County, Virginia, and he is currently the second vice president for the International Association of Fire Chiefs. Going to be presenting a piece this morning, but for now he's going to come up and give us an update on what's going on at the international level. So, Chief?
Good morning. Look, I got in, and by the time I was settled, it was midnight, and then I was up at 4 for a 6 o'clock call. So if I can say good morning, come on, meet me halfway here. Come on, just yeah. It's good to be with you all this morning. I have a short turnaround, quick turn and burn, as we call it. I came in, and I'll be out of here later today. Of course, as fate would have it, just before the fun begins with the concert. And I was telling Josh that it couldn't be any worse. If I could have just stayed a few more hours, that would have been great, but I can't. Like I said, it's good to be with you. I'm new to the IFC governance, if you will. I've never run for anything in my life, okay, or sought an elected position. And about a year or two ago, actually 2 years ago, Josh and me and Tricia Wolford, another fire chief, and others started putting our heads together to run for the IFC positions on the board. And I threw my name in the hat last year, and I don't know, people weren't paying attention, but nobody ran against me, and I kind of sashayed through the back door, and now I'm the second vice president, and real proud and honored and privileged to be in this position. Hopefully we can actually start listening and paying attention to the membership and seeing what their needs are. Some quick updates from the the association, we have a very robust legislative agenda that started even before the pandemic and kind of stalled there for a little bit. And that's funding, AFG funding, SAFER funding, and a lot of other resources that we could possibly leverage our elected officials to work on. As you know, or probably know, in 2018 and 2019, the association was in the red. It was in the red, and it was ugly. In 2020, even with the pandemic, we were finally able to break even. 2020, we broke even, and currently it's in the black. Some of that was we cut down on our leasing. They were paying for a ton of square footage in Northern Virginia there at those prices, and kind of downsized the organization, the workforce, and the space they were renting. Saved a good $800,000 by doing that, and that was just bad money, especially when people were teleworking, and there were other ways to do things. We've had in the 12 years of relationship with ESCI, we finally have ownership and the dividend return. The dividend return from ESCI was $300,000, and this year it'll be $1 million, which is kind of returning to normal. That $1 million will go to kind of rehiring some people we had laid off that we need, some of the workforce, to some extent, not the levels there were before. Okay. FRI, if anybody attended FRI this year, we are claiming it as a success. It had 5,000 attendees, give or take. We were going to be happy with 3,000 to 3,500, and we got to 5,000. Pre-pandemic years, it would have been 8,000 to 10,000 during the normal years. So we're looking for 3. We got 5K folks there, and we are chalking it up as a somewhat success. To our best knowledge, no one got sick there. No one has reported getting sick during the FR conference in Charlotte. To our best knowledge, no one has to disclose that, of course. The WUI conference. The WUI conference that typically happens in November. It'll happen again, but virtual this November, and the in-person will be in March for a few reasons. Some of it is funding. It's funded through the Forest Service quite a bit, the WUI conference, and they kind of wanted to hold up on that with everything that's going on in November and recommitted to March. For COVID and everything else. And probably bigger than the usual COVID excuse is we're still in the fire season. Okay, to pause and bring those resources together for a conference right now, it's not wise. So we're going to try it in March. VCOS in Clearwater is still a go, I think in November. That's still healthy and functioning. Membership, from a financial and operational perspective, we took a hit in membership over the last couple of years for some obvious reasons. People were losing trust and faith in their association. We do see an uptake. It's coming back up, and it's coming up rather rapidly. If you could graph the re-entrance into the membership, it's coming along real big. And I think that's the 25-cent tour of what's going on in the International Association of Fire Chiefs. And from all indications, there's small, progressive little steps, incremental steps, but I think we're ticking back up. It's about living a set of values, system of trust and transparency, and listening to the membership. And if we keep doing the right things, it'll take care of itself. So, thank you. I'll take questions if you've got any. All right. Thank you all. I'll see you later. We'll talk some more. Another rap session.
Thank you, Chief Butler. Sometimes we kind of lose sight. We get always obviously focused on what we're doing here, and right, because that's right in front of us and everything. But really being part of that bigger picture is pretty impressive once you start to see what all goes on in there. And so We're happy to have Chief Butler in that lineup. For those of you that don't know, as he mentioned, Josh, our own Josh Waldo, will be running for second vice president right behind Chief Butler, and then Chief Trish Wolford, who spent some time with us here in Montana as well, will be running right behind Chief Waldo. And there's intent and planning behind that. And that's three folks that get a vision, and see a little bit different vision for getting back to the membership a little bit. And so we wish Chief Waldo success as he challenges through that, and then Chief Wolford as well as she steps into that role. And as Chief Butler moves on, good luck. And I say that in all due respect. Okay, with that said, real quick, I'd like to invite Michael Sullivan up from FirstNet. We hear a lot about FirstNet and what it's doing, but there's no way to get it better than from the horse's mouth, and try and figure out the direction they're still taking, and a work in progress in Montana. So, Mike, pleased to have you with us.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the time today. I'll just take a couple minutes. I'm sure most of you, being firefighters, are familiar with FirstNet, but just in case, FirstNet was born out of 9/11. I think we all remember the chaos and tragedy around that day. One thing that was observed is, our first responders, yourselves, police, EMS, really were locked down, couldn't communicate. There was no real integration or coordination available. So from that, the 9/11 Commission came up with this determination that we need a dedicated network for first responders. In the event of any tragedy or chaos or any emergencies, we've got to have a system that supports interoperability between emergency responders. So AT&T was fortunate enough to win the bid, and from that, we've moved forward in this partnership with FirstNet, built by AT&T, where we're expanding a dedicated network throughout the United States, especially with the focus on rural markets, where Montana comes in play especially. So where we are today, we've made some significant strides over the last 18 months. We built over 70 towers to support FirstNet in rural areas in particular. The FirstNet towers are characterized by what we call Band 14, which is a dedicated spectrum for first responders. The idea being that network will never get bogged down in the event of an emergency. This FirstNet also utilizes all AT&T spectrum. So in the event that you folks find yourselves in some rural areas where we're utilizing AT&T towers, we have things we refer to features of priority and preemption. So you always have priority service. In the event that there's a lot of traffic, which typically is the case in emergencies, is we have preemption, which would, think of it as driving down the highway and everybody clears out of your way. So it's a real honor to be part of what you do and support what you do. And we encourage you to come visit us. We're located next door in the corner there in Section 3. My colleague here, Sam, he's with me. He supports the what we call subscriber paid. So this isn't just an agency thing, but anyone that has their own personal accounts can sign up for it too, to have the exclusive benefits of FirstNet. Thank you.
Good morning. It's an honor and a privilege to introduce our next speaker this morning. Not only for what you read in his biography, but comes back to some of my core values. My core values that I focus on my career are on being a mentor or finding a mentor in the fire service, passing the knowledge on in your craft, and sharing ideas. That's how the fire service truly gets better. I had the opportunity to cross paths at a point in my career when I first took a chief level position within my department. I was handed a set of keys, but I wasn't given any instructions. And the timing was perfect that I crossed paths with the International Society of Fire Service Instructors and our next speaker, Chief Forrest Reeder. He is the absolute definition of what it means to be a mentor and pass his information on, and he's a true friend. So I welcome him. I encourage you to read his biography. I will not read that out loud. Chief Wallow kind of got on me yesterday for reading his entire biography, but read it. It just shows what he has done for the fire service. He's been in it for a long time, and his entire career has been dedicated at educating others and being that mentor for all of us. So welcome, Chief Reeder.
Thank you, my friend. Very nice. All right, good morning. Better turn that off so we don't feedback all over, huh? All right, good morning, everybody. Just like the chief said, that's your chance to kind of, engage and wake up here. Short time to talk about my passion, which I hope to share with you guys, and that is training firefighters, making them better, faster, safer, and smarter. And that's going to be one of the themes that we're going to talk about here this morning and a little bit more tomorrow, that every training session that a firefighter goes to, the role of the instructor, the role of the participant and everybody involved is to make themselves a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit safer, and a little bit smarter. And through that, if we're not doing that, does every minute matter in training? Does every time we sit down and engage in a conversation, whether it's at the tailboard or in a formal presentation, is there criticality, I guess we can say, to that message and making sure that it sticks? That at 2 o'clock in the morning, we can recall skills and execute those skills by habit? So think about that phrase, and we'll kind of close with that a little bit as we go through the day today. Execute skills by habit. And I'd like you to look down at your shoes for a second this morning. So go ahead, don't be scared, look down at your shoes. For those of you who have laces, when you laced your shoes in your hotel room this morning, did you have to think about the steps that it took to tie your shoes? Probably not, right? But because what? That's become a habit. It's something that through time and through practice you've been able to execute. Now, because we mentioned it, we talked about it, you probably haven't thought about tying your shoes for years and years and years, but guess what's going to happen the next time you go to tie your shoes? You're probably going to screw up because you're going to start thinking about it now because this idiot from Chicago got up here today and he started talking about it. Now I can't tie my damn shoes anymore. So are there things in firefighting, in what we have to do that should kind of have that execute skills by habit where we can do it by default and we don't have to think about the different steps and the different things that go together with that? And I hope, just for the sake of time, let's all say yes. Yes, there are, right? So in your department, is training a look forward to part of your day? Or is it look forward to part of the firefighter's day or week or month or however your training cycle works? How many of you can say that with confidence that your firefighters look forward to being challenged to train, to improve their proficiencies, to demonstrate their ability to do their job? And hear the cricket sound effect? Okay, again, congratulations to to the few of you, but it's crickets and tumbleweeds often when we say that, isn't it? So that's our mission here today. And again, as Matt, thank you for those kind words, Matt. And what I always try to say in my presentations, what's mine is yours. I recently retired as of June 1st of this year after 43 years. Retired as the fire chief of suburban Chicago Fire Department. Been able to travel the country, a whole bunch of different places, and steal from the best of you. I've stolen your work. I hope to share my work with you guys. This presentation, along with everything that I've done in my career in training through fire engineering and all the other stuff at Firefighter Close Calls, my website, my cards and everything up here, let me bump it up here for you, is available to you at thetrainingofficer.com. And as Matt said, what's mine is yours. My job is to make your job easier. I want you to get out from behind the desk and the keyboard, and I want you to get out to the tailboard, to the drill ground, the parking lot, or whatever you have, and start training your firefighters. So on my website, a little later on this morning, this presentation, a bunch of worksheets that I'm going to show you some quick examples of here today in terms of what a training program has to have, and maybe some key topics that have to be covered to make sure that we can, again, get our firefighters to be able to execute those skills by habit. And again, be able to recall those things at 2 o'clock in the morning so that we don't have to think about what step kind of goes in between all those things and that as it goes. So again, I've got some stickers and some cards and stuff over on the table, but as we go through it today, if there's something up there that you like, feel free to take a picture. Feel free to challenge the conversation that we're having. And just real quick, my network, as we've said, my mentors, the people that I look forward to almost every day, my circle of influence, the people who have made my career easy. These 6 or 7 guys, I can count on almost every day, getting a text message, getting an email, getting a phone call from this group of guys here. I couldn't be up here talking to you today if it wasn't for the network and the friendship that I have with these guys here that for many of them has spanned almost the entire career. We lost one of them, one of our guys this year, to COVID and a cancer combination earlier this year. Deputy Chief Al Schlick from the Huntley, Illinois Fire Department, a great visionary in terms of training program design and development, and we miss him dearly. So that's my quick little tribute to my friends and who helped us get to where we're at today. But I think no truer statement was ever said about training here. Your training program is the foundation of survival and safety within your community, isn't it? Again, it always falls back and it becomes, well, it's training's fault. Training didn't, our firefighters weren't ready for this. And no chief ever wants to be in the position that somebody calls up and says, well, your firefighters perform poorly. It's the 911 type of thing. You only can call 911. You can't call 912. You don't have another option to call another neighboring fire department because the service, the people that live in that community, it just doesn't work that way. So we have to perform with a razor-thin margin of error in ability in what we have to do because there's lives at stake. Our lives, the lives of the people that we serve, and things like that. So we've got to have a good, strong foundation within our training program. So the 3 areas, and again, much, much bigger than we can cover here today, but the 3 big areas that we have to take a look at in our training program is that we have to have a compliance arm. And again, there's not enough coffee in the hotel here to get you through this segment in terms of all the compliance stuff. But is that stuff on the board there? Is that important in terms of compliance and what you have to train on? OSHA, whether you are or you're not an OSHA state and things like that really doesn't matter. ISO, you're going to be looking at different Nfpa mandates. You're going to be looking, at different local mandates and things like that. Easy solutions for those. I'm going to give you those resources on the website. I've got worksheets. I'm going to show you how each of those things kind of have to fit together. But where it really matters and really hits the road is here. Is that the skill-based content in terms of what we have to do with our firefighters to improve their ability to do their job. And again, I'm not trying to beat up, the sprinklers and extinguishers and salvage covers, but we're talking about the core essentials. And to me, the big 3, and we'll close with the big 3 a little bit later on this morning, the big 3 are hose, ladders, and SCBA. That if we take nothing else away in this presentation from knowing what the big 3 are for every firefighter within your department, your firefighters have to be masters of the big 3. Because if they can't don an SCBA, if they can't throw a ladder, and if they can't advance a line, really nothing else that we teach them matters, because those are the core things that the backbone of a training program to a mastery level of performance, each of our firefighters have to be able to get to. Okay? Now, back in Illinois, and again, I don't like to go there, and since I'm retired, I'm quickly trying to get out of there myself to go to someplace better, like this beautiful country out here. But in Illinois, the minimum standard for a firefighter to pass their basic firefighter or Firefighter 1 certification is to be able to don an air pack in 60 seconds or less. Is that similar to what we have here? Is that an important number, 60 seconds or less? But if you had to rate that, what would the rating be for that 60 seconds or less in terms of performance when people are trapped inside a structure? Is that an acceptable level? Is that where you want them to be, or do we want to be a little bit to the higher end, faster than 60 seconds? So there we are, guys. Better, faster, safer, smarter. So the training program, through sets and reps, it's about muscle memory. It's about engaging our firefighters and showing them ways that through trial and error, and again, I'm going to walk you through a little exercise here in just a quick second here, just to kind of show you, how this kind of works. But through trial and error, everybody eventually, and how the execute skills by habit thing works, is through muscle memory. You're going to develop your own particular patterns and your own particular skills that with the help of a real good mentor here, Craig he's an excellent fire instructor, and again, he's watching me do my donning sequence and things, and he's saying, hey kid, instead of having your elbows out like this when you lift up that air pack and put it over your head, lift up that air pack with your elbows forward so the shoulder straps do what, everybody? The shoulder straps fall over the elbows and things like that. So, again, there's ways that we can improve that performance, but there'll be some challenges, especially in the area of enhancing a skill, and most importantly, making sure our skills are retained. Making sure that, again, we can retain them and recall them. Again, execute skills by habit, better, faster, safer, smarter. Again, we have to work through each of those different levels. And then finally, the last of the three components and what we need to know in our program, and we'll kind of touch on this just very, very briefly, is all of our training programs need to have a professional development component, a mentorship, a succession planning tool to prepare them before they sit in the next seat up in the organization. Task books are a great way to do that, making sure that you've got the ability through a reference task book and a reference standard to make sure that we're showing them before they're challenged to meet that. Well, heck, folks, there's even language in 1500, Nfpa 1500, which I hope you all have heard of, that actually requires that as a mandatory part of 1500, that before somebody engages in a particular task, they have to have initial training that can be documented and verified. Again, God forbid something goes wrong, but if something goes wrong, it's all going to be about discovery and the training records. Trust me, I've been there. I've been involved in line of duty death investigations, firefighters who've been killed in the line of duty that I've trained from the academy level up, again, poor service deliveries, lawsuits and things. It's all about the documentation and what we can prove on paper or in computer now that a firefighter has been trained and prepared to do their job. So our responsibilities are gigantic. And I know I'm moving along real quickly here, but because I want to get towards the big payoff towards the end here. We talk about these skill sets here. But what we're responsible for are these four things, okay? And again, on the back of my coin, on the back of the sticker, you see the little helmet shields, but those are what those things mean for us here. That is the chief of the organization to the Pro-B firefighter who just signed the paper and they want to be part of it. Each and every one of us have to be invested in these four things. And training almost singularly, it's not about the policies that I push out from behind my desk, it's not about the budget. It's about an investment in the core and why we serve, and what we do matters as firefighters, what we do matters as an instructor, what we do matters as a training officer, and so on and so forth. So with these four things, everyone goes home, nobody gets hurt, excellent service is delivered, and we retire happy and healthy. And for years and years and years, I just did the first three. Everyone goes home, nobody gets hurt, and excellent service is delivered. But just in the past few years, and not just because I was getting near retirement or things like that, but just because of all the things that we've seen in terms of the PTSD and suicide awareness and all of the injuries and the cumulative effects of what we see, what we breathe, what we take in and things like that has become critically important to me and hopefully to all of you. The great products that we see in the exhibit hall there and all the different barriers and all the different things that we can do in terms of solutions from an engineering side have to go back to making sure we retire happy and healthy. And retire isn't about the pension thing. Retire is about when we separate from the greatest job on earth, sometimes the greatest circus on earth, but the greatest job on earth. We retire happy, which means the head is clear, we're able to talk about, we're able to positively and progressively deal with the things that we've seen and the things that we've been exposed to. And again, it's not at this point about putting years in your life. We want to put life in your years. And for a great period of time, and again, we're starting to see the curve change a little bit, and what I'm happy to report is it is improving, but New York had some tremendous data that they shared with us at the Tampa 2 Summit and actually going back through the Life Safety Initiatives Conference. And they had a really, really scary set of statistics that firefighters who were hired in the 60s and 70s in New York, the war years when they were burning every day, tragically, that after a 25 to 30 year career span, those firefighters had an average life expectancy of 18 months after retirement. So if that's the average, what does that mean, folks? Statistically, a bunch of them didn't even make it 18 months. And obviously a lot of that goes to protective clothing and SCBA and different styles of firefighting and different fire volumes. But You know, we need to put years in our life as well as life in our years. I want you to retire to be able to travel the country, to be able to enjoy your kids, to be able to enjoy your grandkids, and to be a burden to the pension system if that applies and things. So that's why that fourth side of the coin has kicked in over the last couple of the years here. So our philosophy, and I'm going to give you a battlefield promotion here today. The battlefield promotion looks like this. Quick show of hands. How many of you have a training program within your department? Keep your hands up. Okay, because that's part of the ordination here as we go along. You've got a training program. This point forward, the change in what I want to see in our philosophy now is it is now a survival program. If you are the department's training officer, your battlefield promotion here is you become the department's survival officer. If you are the department's fire chief, you are the chief survival officer of your organization. And that is the criticality of what we have to do as professionals who give a damn, and we want to make sure that everybody goes home, no one gets hurt, excellent service is delivered, and we retire happy and healthy. So to that end, becoming the chief survival officer requires a look at what we have to do in our training program, and that's kind of the subtitle here. You know, the subtitle was, you know, what every chief should know, and again, this is an upward-downward type of a presentation and concept here, that our job is to take a look at what has to come from the chief side of things to make sure that it sticks in terms of policies and things we have to do within our training program, as well as on the other side in what we have to do from the firefighter and the training staff all the way up so that we can work together to achieve that goal and that philosophy. So every training, as we said before, if we can make ourselves in every drill, whatever way you want to call it here, the better, faster, safer, smarter thing, please take a picture, please write it down, please grab a card, a sticker, whatever you have to. Remember, that is your job. Each and every one of us, there's an opportunity to mentor, to make someone better every time we have a chance to have a conversation. And in our world, it's always teaching. You are always teaching. You are always teaching. What you do, you teach. I believe that completely, that if I approach the training session, oh, here we go, we got to run through this again, the PowerPoint kind of sting, again, if you bring that type of an attitude, or if you don't bring a sense of urgency, and if you can't tell them what it is and why it's important and where they're going to see it, we can't achieve this goal of making that training environment and making each of our firefighters better, faster, safer, and smarter. So on the website, I'm going to give you a scorecard that looks like this. There's about a dozen items up here. And when I talk about the compliance piece, and remember I said I'm not going to kill you with that because we don't have enough coffee and stuff, and there's more urgent things that we have to talk about. But if you look at that list there, somewhere, someone in our fire service tells us that we have to have that in our training programs. Okay, those are the compliance pieces of what we have to go through. Nfpa is going to say so, OSHA is going to say so, there's going to be a best practice through NIOSH perhaps, there's going to be a best practice through, maybe your state training association. There's going to be somebody locally, like your attorneys, your risk management people. Maybe it's going to be something through an EMS system or things like that. But this is a short list of something that really can grow to be much, much longer here. And again, if you scan that right now, what's your report card on this? What's your needs assessment back at home right now? Is there opportunity to improve your training program? Yeah, I think there is for each of us. And again, help is here. This isn't me just up here telling you what you have to do without a resource. I'll make sure we get those resources put in play and kind of make those things work for you. So let's do a little exercise about change here real quick. And if you see the little guy there on the left-hand side up there with his arms folded there, and you got that skeptical look here, how does change happen, especially in terms of skills and abilities and things like that? Because training, by the formal definition, is about changing behaviors. So do this for me, just like he has, and I see a couple of you already in the position here. Go ahead and fold your arms across your chest for me. Everybody do it. Go ahead, and you're not going to hurt you here. That's your morning exercise routine. And the folks who wrote the book said, or they'll say, that is something you are unconsciously competent in doing, like tying your shoes at this point. You do it all day long, day in, day out, you fold your arms across your chest, and you don't have to think about the mechanism or the steps to fold your arms across your chest. And if you look around your table there, half of you will have your left arm on top, half of you have your right arm on top, right? And that's just the way it is. And by the way, the left hand on top is the right way to do it. So think about it. Come on. All right, here, I'll help you out here. The left arm. Again, as I control the pace and the PowerPoint thing here, so it's got to be the way I said it, right? Okay, switch your arm up and put the other arm on top. Holy crap, huh? Okay, and as I scan the room, okay, he hasn't figured it out yet. He's still trying to, switch it up there, right? Looks like somebody got hurt over here. I got, Seth is going to file a grievance against me for, making me change his work rules and things like that as they go. And, maybe there's a couple of you who don't mind because you go both, well, all right, we'll leave that alone. But isn't it doing the same thing? It's doing the same thing. However, because of years and years and a lifetime for all of us, this is what's become comfortable for me. So now, when I look at changing skills and why that pass device is up here, and I'll kind of tie this all together with the fire service story for you, is that when I went to the fire academy, 1980, well, again, we won't get into the numbers and things like that. Let's just say for conversation, and just a quick cup of coffee conversation here. When I learned to don an air pack, like many of you, I donned that air pack and there were 10 steps. And again, 10 may or may not be the right number, but just kind of play along here. So there were 10 steps. It was, get all the straps ready to fold it out. I'd turn on the bottle. I'd read the bottle pressure. I'd lift it up overhead. I'd pull the shoulder straps down. I'd do the waist straps and all that other good stuff. And over time, my ability to do that became unconsciously competent. I didn't have to think about all those steps, and just all of a sudden, I went from maybe a minute and a half to a minute to 45 seconds. I went through smoke divers. I went through rapid intervention, rid under fire, all the other things like that, and I became a master of that particular set because I could do it, this way. And lo and behold, I'm in the low 20s and down in my air pack, to the point where it became unconsciously competent. So here's the real story and the other part of it, and why that pass device is up there. Anybody? Just a quick show of hands. Anybody remember those pass devices? Oh, again, more. Okay, help me out here. Help me feel a little bit better about it. Okay, a few of you have seen those before. And what did we know about those lifeguard, those Firefly, the early versions of those? Manual. They were manual, right? Okay. So here's what changed. So when I went to the academy, I learned the 10 steps. I got really, really good at the 10 steps. And then in the early 1990s, I think 1990, 1991, those things came out. And I was required to turn it on if it was going to do anything good for me, right? So that became step number what in my donning sequence? I'd mastered 10, so this became step number, you guys are good, all right, step number 11, right? So what did that step look like in terms of the arms folded? These were the 10 steps. That was the 11th step. So what did I almost every time forget to do, folks? I forgot to turn it on because it wasn't forced and it wasn't fireman proof yet. Okay, until this firefighter went to the academy in 1993, and how many steps did she learn? She learned 11 steps, right? So unless she was on my crew and I heard her chirp up, okay, I would oftentimes, if not always, forget to turn that pass device on. Here's the real sad part of the story. 1994, right around Valentine's Day, a little street called Bryceland Street in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And my good folks on the safety and survival side of things that know the story very well, 3 Pittsburgh firefighters were killed in the line of duty in a sub-basement of a 2.5-story frame which presented from the Alpha side of the structure. But Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, the house was built into the side of the hill, and there was a basement and a sub-basement, and again, a tremendous number of errors occurred during that particular incident. But this is a hardcore, busier than heck type of a fire department with seasoned firefighters who were hired about what year? Going with the story, late 70s, early 80s. They'd mastered 10 steps. In the investigation, unfortunately, what we found with those 3 firefighters and that horribly, horribly sad story is all 3 of those firefighters had that exact pass device on their waist straps, and as they crawled around in the basement trying to find a window, trying to find a door, as their brothers and sisters were trying to find them from the outside, what didn't they have on? The pass device was in what position, folks? It was in the off position, because why? It was step number 11, and we hadn't mastered that change in behavior. There's urgency in what we do in training. When we change patterns, when we change, if I went to your firehouse today and you had, do all of you set your gear out on your apparatus on your rig for the day? set it out nearby, I hope, right? If I went and I moved one thing from that, pile or that setup or where you hang it or where you position things, and then turn you out for an alarm, what's going to happen when you get to your rig and you get to your gear? Again, the scientist will say is that the error sequence starts to begin. It's like a domino effect. Especially on the things that we have an expectation to be the same. When we, when we have that, that reaction, like in this case here, that's where the error chain can start to begin. So the importance of what we do in reinforcing and retaining skills and ability, couldn't be more important for us as we go through the day today. So let me show you this. Those of you who were trained a little while ago, this was your chapter on fire behavior, whether it was through the fundamentals or IFSTA essentials or whatever it was. That was pretty much our vocabulary, wasn't it? And what's happened just in the last 5 years or so? We introduced all this stuff, right? These words did not exist in the previous edition of whatever Firefighter 1 book you guys are using here in the state. Almost none of those words existed in the previous edition. So if you're using the 4th edition of Fundamentals or the 8th edition of whatever edition you're using, if you go back one edition in the book, all of those words on the right-hand side virtually did not exist in our conversation. But hopefully, can all of you now give me a little bit of a working definition of where we see it and how it's important and how we work with it or against it in the fire service? If not, we got a little bit of work to do, because that again, our knowledge and our ability to work with that stuff. And again, I can give you a million examples of that stuff, but here's a picture going from way back, and this was, kind of got chopped off there. Is that meaningful training? That's how I was introduced to SCBA training. Matter of fact, to become a cadet in 1978, when I first joined the fire department, because I wanted to play softball on the fire department team, the only way you could be on the team, softball team, was to join the fire department. So I said, okay, we can do this. And that would be an example of the SCBA training that we had to go through. We'd crawl through the basement, and the senior cadets, or the firefighters, the regular volunteer firefighters, they would harass you until you ran out of air. Hit you with a pillow. They, walk around banging the garbage can lids and things like that. The old elephant trunk SCBA, the belt-mounted regulators and things like that. They would blow cigar smoke up through that, and if you puked or if you ripped your mask off, nope, you're out. You can't join the fire department. That was it. And in the context of meaningful training, did it wash some people out that maybe, well, yes, but at the same time, it probably push some people out who probably deserved a better method of training. And as we look at that, and look at everything that the instructor and the training officer has to do today, that there's an Nfpa standard on what it takes to be an instructor today. And I've gone above and beyond that with some of the stuff on the website that you guys will see here, and this is how I've rewritten 1041, which is the Fire Service Instructor 1 and 2 standard. And that if you want to be an instructor today and moving forward, these are the 10 things that I believe we have to have a working skill level as a fire service instructor to manage the training environment, to be a better instructor, to meet that ability to be better, faster, safer, and smarter. I don't want to go back to these days again. I want to move forward in 2021 and have our instructors be able to do these 10 things. And that almost none of these exist within the Fire Service Instructor 1 certification. So we've got work to do in terms of improving our ability to teach our firefighters, and that would be just a short list of the different things that we have to take and tie together. So more to follow after we're wrapped up on some of those things. So the modern training program, and again, I don't expect you to memorize or just give this more than just a passing glance here, but that's everything we have to have in our training program to be fully compliant with someone who says we have to do the training in the compliance areas, to ISO if it matters within your organization and your insurance service rating and things like that. Almost an unattainable scale for many of you in terms of the number of hours and the types of things that they're looking for. And then through all of the Nfpa standards that tell us there's something that we have to do within our training program. Here's the short course on Nfpa for you. And again, whether you're a member or not, it matters. Okay, whether you're a member of Nfpa or not, or you subscribe to their doctrines and things like that, it matters. because that is our industry's best practices, folks. And what you need to know about NFPA, and again, if you're jotting notes or things like that, just remember 4 numbers for me. 10, 14, 15, and 19. 10, 14, 15, and 19. Okay, just one more time, 10, 14, 15, and 19. So any NFPA standard that begins with 10, 14, 15, or 19, there is direct responsibility of the fire department and the fire chief to include all of the elements in the standards that begin with 10, 14, 15, and 19 in your fire department training program. Okay? God forbid something happens. You have an accident, you have a significant injury, you have a lawsuit against your department for failure to perform a duty or a responsibility. You have an accident, you have a line of duty death or something like that. Someone who's going to show up in a suit much nicer than this is going to say, Chief, show me your records related to NFPA so-and-so. And for the purposes of keeping you out of jail, again, in civil suits and lawsuits and all that other good stuff, and again, criminal, I don't have to go down the criminal side of things, chances are it's going to be referencing a standard that begins with 10, 14, 15, or 19. 10 are the certification standards that deal with JPRs and what we do in terms of training our firefighters. 14 are all of the recommended training practices. You can see many of them over on the right-hand column over there. Those are turnkey training programs that if you need a driver training program, folks, you go to NFPA 1451, and that is a standardized training program for every type of driver you have in your program. That's what keeps your department out of trouble when, again, God forbid, you get into that car accident or a member gets into a vehicle accident responding to and from an incident. The lawyers, I guarantee you because of experience, and again, let my experiences be lessons for each and every one of you guys here, that if there is an accident, the lawyers, the workman's comp, the risk managers within your community and things like that, they're going to use 1451 as the best practice in terms of what your department's driver training program needs to be against. Built to support. Okay, so again, 10, 14, 15, 19. 10 is professional standards, 14 are training standards, 15 are all the safety standards. Anything related to firefighter safety begins with a 15. Most notably NFPA 1500, that is our occupational health and safety standard. And then 19 is your equipment standard. And I will give you my personal guarantee here that everything that you see on the floor, on the exhibit room, from all the rescue equipment you see in there to every piece of personal protective equipment has got an NFPA 19 something, 19XX attached to it in terms of the standard that piece of equipment was built against. And again, the same thing applies here, folks, that before you give it to your firefighters, you have to train them on the use, care, and maintenance of that equipment before they put it into service in a real emergency. Because if you don't and something happens, God forbid, that's where we're going to get ourselves jammed up. So I know that was lengthy, and I know that's a whole bunch of stuff, but I can help you, after we're wrapped up here, and well beyond. And just looking at the impact of that 10, 14, 15, 19, because that is what keeps us out of trouble when it comes to when things go wrong. So from a reliability factor, the good news is we are the most reliable thing in most people's lives. We always show up. Same day service isn't good enough for us. We are there within minutes to make that problem better for each and every one of our firefighters. A majority of the people staying in this hotel here today, guys, they won't do what you're willing to do. And that is a tremendous amount of responsibility that we have. People count on us to make it better. Our responsibility is just this. We have one mission, and that is to make it better. We have one mission, and that is to make it better. Every time someone calls us, and again, a 911 operator has two choices, really. A 911 call comes in, if it can be shot at or if it can be put in handcuffs, they send the police. Everything else, they send you to make it better for the person who is calling. And that is a tremendous responsibility. And as we look here, to get to that level of making it better, we have to be able to execute those skills by habit. And we have to train until they can't get it wrong. It's not enough for us to train to get it right. We have to train until they can't get it wrong. And that's how we send firefighters home each and every time. that we've got meaningful training content that makes sure that we teach them those core skills and those core abilities. Eddie Buchanan, who's going to be drumming for us tonight and doing a kick butt presentation tomorrow for you, he'll probably talk about the Navy SEALs here a little bit. I know you talked to Jason yesterday, and I'm sure he blew you away with just his the mantra and what they stand for. But the ability and the difference between getting it right and not getting it wrong is so tremendously important for what we do in our culture. This is a good old Chief Brunacini thing and tied together with Michael Abershoff, one of my favorite books. It's called It's Your Ship. And in our business here, folks, the two most important things that we do are to go to emergencies and to prepare to go to emergencies. And if you're a chief of department and you're measuring the quality of work of your firefighters on how clean the rig is and how clean the floors are and how often the garbage cans are emptied, I'm here to tell you from my experience is you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. If that's what your mission and your responsibility and what you think your firefighters need to be doing. Your firefighters need to be doing these two things: going to emergencies and preparing to go to emergencies. So what that means is physical fitness, functional capacity testing, checking the rigs, doing their training, and again, good functioning fire departments, if we believe in this, all of the other things take care of itself. The rigs are going to get washed, the floors are going to get mopped, the garbage cans are going to get emptied. If we believe that we exist to go to calls to make it better for somebody. And that's our job, is to make it better. And again, there's my grandson on the left-hand picture there. 2 years old, that's my little Theo there. His favorite thing in the world to do, like it was me in the top right-hand picture in 1965 there when I was 2 years old, people want to grow up to be firemen. People want to grow up to be firemen. And that is a tremendous responsibility for us to act professionally, to when we put on that badge, to either polish that badge or tarnish that badge. And I hope every day that we're working hard to make sure that we polish that badge so that when the people call us, they know we're going to get there and make it better. Our job is to make it better by training, by going to emergencies, and by doing the things that we have to, so that as Theo watches his favorite YouTube channel out right now, if you YouTube right now, one of the most popular channels for kids his age right now is Fire Trucks Responding. Fire trucks leaving the scene, and there's hours of videos of fire trucks pulling out of the station and driving down the street with their lights and sirens on. And he'll watch this, more than he'll watch Blippi or any of the other stuff that he's watching, today. Not because Grandpa used to do it. Grandpa drove a Tahoe, so I'm a long time away from the fire truck side of things. But when that fleet in the bottom right-hand corner hits the street, it hits the street meaning business with dedicated professionals who carry an honor roll Navy SEAL approach to executing our mission flawlessly. Our people want honor roll firefighters. They don't want C students arriving on the scene. They want people who are experts in everything and have an answer, or can get on the radio and get somebody who has an answer to fix the problem for them. Okay? So what about this as our time starts to come to an end for us here? In your organization, what is the most widely overlooked or unenforced safety violation in your department? Think about that for a second. You know what? Lean over to the person next to you and tell them your dirty little secret in your department about which of those, let's call them the 1,500 standards about occupational health and safety. What is the most widely overlooked safety thing that happens in your organization? And I'm serious. Go to the person next to you and just whisper, quick little, take 2 seconds here. I'm not going to be surprised by what you say because I know what you're going to say. That there's 5 or 6 things that are going to be in this area here, and it's not going to be a surprise to anybody at the table. So real quickly, what is it? Can I hear seatbelts for 100? Do I hear excessive speed for 200? Do I hear failure to stop in an intersection for 400? Do I hear not having a spotter when I back up the vehicle for 600? And so on and so forth. This year, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 line of duty deaths this year, or is it 3? It's 2 or 3 firefighters killed in their own station or killed out on the fire ground by their own drivers backing up over them and killing them because we didn't have a spotter. Again, in my organization before I left and retired, I had 6 or 7 policies that were zero deviance. These were the point of no return. You do this once, you are suspended and sent home. You do it again, you are fired. My direct orders, having a spotter, excessive speed, seatbelts, PPE use. Again, it's not, you know, it's not the daily rig. It's the stuff that matters that doesn't allow people to go home, and it doesn't allow us to arrive safely on the scene. You know, we have to have that zero tolerance set of SOPs or procedures or documents that we have in our organization, or you know, again, you know, some of my best, you know, friends in my career were the lawyers that defended us against stupid stuff. And you know, a quick show of hands, do you have a policy in your organization right now that requires your drivers to stop at an intersection where they don't have the right of way, meaning a stoplight or a stop sign? Raise your hands. Okay? Keep your hands up if it is regularly enforced in your organization. Okay, applause, golf claps. Okay, just a round of golf claps for all of you who kept your hands up there. But what my lawyer friends taught me is that they would rather you not have that policy in writing than to have that policy and not enforce it. Because if you have that policy and you don't enforce it, they have no ability to defend you in a court of law in a criminal or a civil lawsuit. If it says you shall come to a complete stop at red lights and stop signs and you regularly don't enforce it, and God forbid something happens, the driver and the operator, the driver and the officer both can own liability for that particular accident. And I'm preaching to the choir, I hope, when I talk about that. But that language, guys, is in 1,500. People, you know, too many unions, too many organizations wrap their themselves around 1,500 compliance and things like that. But 1,500 specifically, and you also see it in 1002 and a bunch of other places, is they say that the driver is responsible for the operation and the safety of the vehicle, and the officer is responsible for the actions of the driver. It says it shall. You know, the word shall is in there, which means compliance, which opens up the door that if you've got a firefighter who's driving like a jerk, and you're the officer and you don't tell him to stop driving like a jerk, okay, something goes wrong, you are as liable as the person behind the wheel. And our standards making organization tells us that. So our job, and again, the urgency and the message here is that if you answered this, and I'm sure going around the room here, you know, probably PPE was in there. Maybe you've got something about physical fitness. Maybe you've got something about size up or something like that they're supposed to do or whatever. Radio reports. Again, if it's in writing and it's something that's supposed to be done, we've got to start making a difference, and by getting our people to be able to do that. So tying it all together here are the 5 keys to the best part of what we do in training. All of our training has to be realistic, and time again, I see drill evolutions that have a fire company advancing an 1 3/4 pre-connect or a cross-lay from an engine and having 4 or 5 people on the hose line. You know, taking it off the engine, getting it in the drill tower, moving it into the station, the acquired structure, or whatever. But what is the reality about their staffing on a real fire? Is there a situation where you're going to have 4 or 5 people on that hose line in a real situation? So what are we doing again with the muscle memory? If we're practicing with 4 or 5 people unrealistically in training, what is the expectation and what is the drift to failure that we are setting our firefighters down a course to do? We're drifting to failure there in that situation by showing them, well, it's not that hard to move essentially a 2x4, which is what they're moving around inside there when it comes to corners and angles and things like that. They're moving a 200-foot 2x4 through a structure. And if they got 4 or 5 people on that hose line, it probably is relatively easy for them to do that. But when it is a nozzle operator and a backup person, it's certainly not that easy. So make sure training is realistic in terms of the number of people, the type of equipment, the levels of PPE, and those types of things that we have in order to make sure that training sticks for them. Relevant, referenced, performance-based, and most importantly, student-centered involved. Everybody has to touch the prize, even if it takes several times to do that same basic evolution. And again, I've long time ago, I've given up on, having, training sessions that cover, 5, 6, 7 different, objectives or skill sets. Smaller is better in this case, okay? In this case, it's better to take a smaller set of skills and smaller set of objectives and give everybody a chance to touch the prize and to be in that particular nozzle position, to be in that particular ladder position, to do the radio size up report, to put the pump in gear or things like that. That's tremendously important, and why that's the fifth key to successful training. So as we bring our time to an end here, let's kind of give you a little bit of homework and some stuff we have to think about. Final outcome of every training, again, is to make them better, faster, safer, and smarter. Can we all say that together here? Better, faster, safer, smarter. Better, faster, safer, smarter. If you get them to say it, if you get them to believe it, if you get them to write it down, those are the things that help us naturalize those behaviors and those thought patterns. We learn more by seeing, well, no, we learn more by seeing, saying, and doing. See, say, and do it. Again, talk about the steps, especially when we're introducing a new skill. Talk through the steps. Now I'm opening the nozzle. Now I'm closing the nozzle. I'm going to have the nozzle out in front of me, in a position out here where I can work it and all the different, so, talk about what you're doing. That's crew resource management. Check and balance, check and balance. We have, such a, again, as I said before, a razor thin margin for error in what we do. It's so tremendously important that we make sure that we verbalize the different stuff that we have to do. So I'm going to end with some training for you guys for this real quick. So in your organization, can you tell me with all confidence that every member of your organization, if they were running out of air on the second floor of a house and they needed escape air from their partner would be able to give them air and they'd be able to get air from their partner? 100% of your department. Buddy breathing, okay, there's the quick fill, however you guys want, escape air is the fancy term you got to use for it. Does every member of your department, with their eyes closed, with the hood over, in a zero visibility situation at 2 o'clock in the morning when their brother or sister firefighter is running out of air and will likely get sick and or die if they can't do something about that situation, is 100% of your firefighter staff able to meet that competency? What do you think? I don't have the sound hooked up here, but normally the cricket sound effect and the tumbleweeds would be playing right now. There's urgency in our message here, folks, and again, it's the stuff that matters. Hose, ladders, and SCBA. Hose, ladders, SCBA, mastery level of performance to get everybody able to handle that situation. What about this scenario? A firefighter is separated from their partner and is lost inside a large commercial building. Does every firefighter, and again, here's your homework assignment, and what I'd like you to do before, as soon as you get back and you talk with your company, one of the best drills we've ever come up with at firefighter close calls and things like that, we've got the Mayday Drill. And here's the Mayday Drill. We're going to give the firefighters a blank piece of paper and something to write with. We're going to get them together, assembled around the kitchen table, however you have to do it, even if it's a one-on-one type of situation. And I'm going to have my firefighters write down every situation where they would call a Mayday. When would you call a Mayday? That's the question. When would you call a Mayday? What's going through your mind right now, guys? Lost, trapped, missing, out of air, injured, overrun by fire. My gut says so. Time elapsed, fire conditions, collapse inside the structure. Actually, there's 16 different situations where you should call a Mayday, according to Nfpa 1561 and a bunch of the other standards out there. Most of your firefighters probably will go with lost, trapped, or missing. So question 2 is this. Question 1 is what again? When would you call a Mayday? What do you think question 2 is? What would you say when you call a Mayday? And again, I'm looking for Navy SEAL level performance here. Execute skills by habit. Better, faster, safer, smarter. Everyone goes home, nobody gets hurt, excellent service is delivered, and we retire happy and healthy. We tie it all together and we say, what would you say when you call a Mayday? And again, I'm going to ask you the same question, guys, and again, I've got the crickets ready to go here, but can 100% of your fire department, for that scenario there, the second one in the box, call a proper Mayday that will start to assist in their rescue? So what is your Mayday message? Is it lunar? Is it UCAN? Is it LIP? Again, I'm not here to advocate a particular style over the other, but to me what matters is LIP, location, identification, and problem. Who are you? Where are you at? What's your problem? And most of the time it comes out ILP, sometimes a little bit better. Mayday, 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 it's Reader, I'm in the first floor commercial building, I'm off the hose line running out of air. Is that enough to start a Mayday rapid intervention response or another company, closest company response to help the firefighter on the inside? But if we went with Lunar, and again, is Lunar something that you guys are familiar with the Mayday acronym? A couple of you shaking your head there. What does the L stand for? Location, okay. The U is unit. The N, your name. The A is air supply, the area. Oh, holy shit, okay. So we started out with something really good, and now we started to change. Well, our department says the A is for your air level. Our department says it's the area that you're in, or the aid that is needed, or so on and so on and so on. So we've got to keep it simple. This is a life or death. You may only have one chance to transmit that message when we're in trouble inside the building. So that's why executing that skill by habit and be able to get that message out, A, B, and C, Mayday, 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 it's forest, second floor, Alpha Bravo corner, inside wall, and I'm running out of air. Okay, again, just getting our firefighters into that position. And then finally, last but not least, here's the graduate level here. Do we train our incident commanders in their role in managing both those situations? I've got help. I've got resources to help us do that. I've got flashcards that have Mayday messages. Again, in the right context, I never from this point on do I want to see our firefighters doing a Mayday drill without that firefighter being on air with a low pressure bell and a pass device going off in the background, and the receiver of that message not being in the fixed command position in the car if that's what you're using, or however you're managing command. Everything has got to be done in the context that it's going to happen, because what this gentleman as the incident commander doesn't want to know or have happen is the first time when you call a Mayday, he doesn't want to hear that with your low pressure bell and your pass device going back on. So if we train for the worst case scenario, we work on making sure that everyone goes home. Okay, so please do me that favor. The next time you do a Mayday drill, have the person calling the Mayday put them on air with a low pressure bell and a pass device going off in the background, and have your incident commander be sitting in the position where they're at during the course of a real fire. Okay, everything has got to be as realistic, relevant, reference, performance-based, and member-involved like we saw in the 5 keys in order to make sure that training makes a difference in the organization. Okay? So when instructors teach, okay, demonstrate best practices. Always show what right looks like. What you do, you teach. Rule number 1 as a fire service instructor, the best way, especially from adult learning, is to show what right looks like. Show what right looks like, and when we're looking at the critical skills that we have to teach, we should underestimate skills and abilities until proven otherwise, and then always use a coaching method. Okay? Always use a coaching method, which means you had a playbook, you had a script to work from, and you're trying to work through our ability to change performances. Okay? In closing, let me give you the core 3. Okay, kind of the big 3. Okay, and I'm going to give you for three different job levels: firefighters, driver operators, and company officers. And again, this is just my opinion. Again, I would encourage you guys to kind of look at your organization and what they have to do. But to me, if we can't do the next 9 things here, the first 5 minutes on the fire ground, segue to my presentation tomorrow, the first 5 minutes when we're arriving on the fire ground here are not going to go according to plan. The first 5 minutes make or break how effective and how positive the outcome of that incident is going to be. So for our firefighters, hose ladders and SCBA. For my driver operators, the things that I would want to train them on and test them annually on are driving skills, the ability to go tank to pump and send fast water to whatever line. And again, if you think about it, you probably have 7 or 8 ways to get water off your engine. 7 or 8 ways that we should be able to teach them to, 7 or 8 ways that we should train them on, and then make sure we evaluate their skills and ability. And then whatever your method of positive water supply is, whether it's a drafting operation or it's a hydrant operation, make sure that our engineer can transition from tank to pump to a positive water supply and closing that tank to pump without any significant, and what the standard says is 10%, without a 10% increase or decrease in net discharge pressure coming off the pump. Okay? Little footnote for you. 1500, again, going back to that again, requires you to train and retest or reevaluate your firefighters every year on core skills such as this. Doesn't tell you what they have to be, that's up to you. Okay, so that's why I'm offering this to you as a little bit of a resource. Train your firefighters and make sure they're proficient in hose ladders and SCBA. Everybody should be able to stretch a cross lay, pre-connect. Everybody should be able to don and work on all the different aspects of their SCBA, and everybody should be able to carry and raise a 24 by themselves. Just my opinion. In my organization, that's what mattered. Those were the 3 core skills. Trained them, set time performance standards, and reevaluated them every year. Couldn't do it, reassigned additional training. Their company officer also bought some time for not making sure their people were in an operational readiness position in that. That's how we make a difference here. So there's our engineers, driver operators, and finally there's our officers. Okay? Your officers need to have a mastery level of proficiency in size up, whatever that is, blue card, whatever. They have to have the ability to size up, to develop an initial incident action plan. Again, required by the standards out there, that initial incident action plan, which means assign their company and assign the companies coming in behind them. And then PALS, just a little acronym that I've got for you here, and that's the ability to keep an eye on their people, their air supply, their location, and their surroundings. So that means situational awareness inside the structure. Where are my people? How's their air supply? Where are we at inside the structure? And what's the environment that we're working in inside around us there? And again, I've got safety officer ones like this. I've got incident commander ones and things like that. But you know, again, as a final resource for you, as I come to a close here for you folks, is on the website later today. You'll see the cup of coffee script, and on there, I want to engage a discussion between the department and the training officer, the chief and the training officer. I've got 15 things that we need to know about our training program that we've kind of captured almost all of them here today, just in our short period of time together here. And you know, the chief wants to walk down in the office and talk about the training program. Let's make that conversation meaningful. Let's get buy-in from the top all the way down to the bottom of the organization to make training count, because we make a difference by making sure that everyone goes home, nobody getting hurt, excellent service being delivered, and retiring happy and healthy, only and exclusively through training. So that's your job. So training needs to be a look forward to part of the day. Members need to be engaged in training. Every drill has to make them better, faster, safer, and smarter. And at the end of the day, please remember that our job is to make it better. We arrive on the scene at every incident we go to when we have a chance to make it better for somebody. The worst day of their lives type of business to a business interruption type of situation, any gamut of anything in between, our job is to make it a little bit better and to improve the situation for the people who we're working with. So that was about an 8-hour class in 52 minutes there. And I hope we have some more conversations during the course of our time here together. Again, my cards will be over on the table with some stickers with the little helmets. If you can remember what those things mean, everyone goes home, nobody gets hurt, excellent service is delivered, and we retire happy and healthy with the better, faster, safer, and smarter. What's mine is yours at thetrainingofficer.com. By the lunchtime, maybe a little bit after today, I'll make sure that this presentation is loaded up with the Montana Fire Conference up there. Just look for that link. Grab this PowerPoint, all the different reference resources and things up there. There's another link up there. I've got, I think, close to 700 quick drills up there that I've written for firefighter close calls and fire engineering that are downloadable and ready for you guys to start posting over the urinals and in the bathrooms at your firehouses, putting them in the mailboxes, putting them in the paycheck envelopes, putting them on the kitchen table, just to have those conversations, because again, firefighters, believe it or not, want to train. If you ever want to see a great example of human behavior and things like that, of course I don't want to put a hidden camera in a firehouse, especially as a chief, because I'd be really afraid of a lot of the stuff that my junior high is doing around the company table. But if you take a 8 or a 10-foot section of 8mm rope and throw it on the kitchen table, and you kind of stand back and watch what's going to happen, what are you going to see firefighters do? They're going to pick up that rope and they're going to tie a handcuff knot. They're going to tie a bowline. They're going to tie a figure 8 on a bite. They're going to, again, give the opportunity to your firefighters by putting resources out in front of them, by putting the quick drills up and by having these conversations, flashcards, whatever, different props and things like that. If you put them out, even when no one's looking, your people who get it and understand what our important mission is, they'll engage and they'll start working through those processes. So to the committee, Michael's been awesome to work with here, and everybody on the conference committee, my applause to you guys for putting on a great conference. Looks like we have a great couple of days ahead of us here. A lot of engagement, a lot of opportunity to network. Again, like the opportunity to shake your hand and wish you the best. And most of all, let's take care of each other and just enjoy the best time of your lives, which is right now in your career and doing what you're doing. 90 days out, and yeah, I miss it, but again, I've retired happy and healthy, and I've got the ability to get out and meet some fine folks like you that I'm looking to do over the next couple of days. So thank you all very much. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys during the course of the rest of the week here. So thank you.